Joining me in the studio, it's going to be one of those Wednesdays. Ian Webster, MP, federal member for Mallee. How are you, Ian?
Good morning, Dave.
We were just saying about it's going to be one of those days. It certainly is. Look, we know that we're going to be talking about it. People are talking about it. So let's talk about it. Our former PM, Scott Morrison.
Yeah, look, the revelations, of course, which interestingly he gave himself in the book that he spoke to Simon Benson and Geoff Chambers. So he certainly was open about it at that point. I think what we need to remember, and this is the issue with history, we need to beware the lens of retrospectivity, because we look from August 2022 when, we're pretty well back to normal, everything's fine, and so we're outraged that things weren't told to us at the time.
Yes.
When people were being buried in mass graves, when Boris Johnson was on a ventilator and didn't look like he was going to live, it was a dramatic time. And the government had to keep going. Now, look, I'm not going to try and justify Scott Morrison's actions. However, he was shoring up what he called the safeguard principle, break glass when required, in an emergency. He didn't actually use any of the 5 portfolios that he co-signed himself into, except for the resource minister's one, which I think is an issue. Yes, it was unprecedented. We were in an unprecedented pandemic as well. It was effectively wartime. Decisions are made at that high level that, we ordinary Australians, even on the backbench as I was then, don't fully comprehend, because the issues are so complex.
They are complex issues. Just, obviously you're not condoning the fact that it wasn't transparent. That's not what you're saying at all. It's just that it's a different time looking at it from now.
Absolutely. And look, Scott Morrison has argued that he didn't want his ministers feeling like he was their, alternate minister. He wanted them to do their job. It was only in a time where it would be necessary. For example, if Greg Hunt was taken out with COVID, he would have the portfolio to manage it, or finance, or whatever the other ones were. Home Affairs.
It was 5, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it was 5.
Yes. And so I think what we need to reflect on is that if we were in his shoes, or in this case, if Mr Albanese was in his shoes, what would he have done? It's all very fine and wonderful to look back now and go, terrible, he was secret. And it just builds on Labor's lie that he's tricky and not trustworthy. I don't actually buy that. I think he made decisions which he has apologised for now, that he wasn't transparent with his ministers. I think that's an appropriate thing to do. And we will wait and see how this all pans out. By no means is it over.
Oh, no, definitely not.
And Labor will keep it going as long as they can.
Honestly, when we were talking about, it's getting a lot of fuel at the moment, a lot of oxygen. It's burning hot. What are we missing about talking about at this particular time, because their attention is focused on that?
Well, this is the point. And we have people who are struggling to pay their energy bills. We have people who can't see a doctor. We have kids who can't access childcare, or their parents can't access childcare. These are everyday critical and crisis point issues. And what we have are promises of reviews, a job summit, which, plenty have been scathing about. I encourage David Littleproud to attend that.
Yep.
I think you can criticise it when you've been in the room. If you're outside the room, it's a bit harder to criticise.
Yes, that makes sense.
So I think that there are so many issues that everyday Aussies just want resolved, and we need the government, the new government, to stop pretending they're in opposition, or believing they're in opposition. I guess they were there for so long, it's just normal for them. But now they need to be.
That's almost nasty, but
it's true.
A point well taken.
It's a cultural position that I don't actually want to get into, frankly.
Yeah.
Myself now in opposition, where you constantly are batting off and trying to score a point here or there. I think the government needs to take the responsibility for these issues that they now face. Stop saying we inherited it. And I think we as Australians need to remember that we came out of the pandemic with the best vaccination rates, with the best economy, and with the lowest death rates. We actually did incredibly well. We are the envy of many, many, many countries overseas. So we've got to remember that incredible good came out of a horrible situation.
It was a horrible situation.
And not just focus on, wow, he wasn't transparent. yeah, look, you could have done that better, I think. But the reality is Australia did very, very well under Scott Morrison.
Okay, then it's fair. No, like I said, we had to talk about it, correct? We
absolutely.
definitely, because everyone's talking about it. Something that'll put a little bit of a smile on, well, as I know now, 5,000 people's faces is vanilla slices.
Look, it's just one of my favourite foods. I think it should be in the top health food group, you know. And
you have got a doctor in front of your mate, haven't you?
But no, vanilla slices are one of my faves, and really pleased Birchip came first again. They deserve to. They've just got an amazing vanilla slice. I have yet to get down to the bread and butter factory here. That was the People's Choice.
Yes, the bread and butter bakery.
Yes, bread and butter bakery. So I will be heading down there at some point to grab one of those. And congratulations to Hudax too. So
yes, definitely
some
coming in
great
second.
winners.
True, and the local entries were amazing. Now, the reason I say that is because it was local sales that were happening that day, and we're talking 20,000 vanilla slices they're talking about selling on the spot.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't buy a great vanilla slice? I would have bought several for the family, but I was unfortunately in Canberra on that day with meetings. So I'm just really pleased that we have these events. I think they're really wonderful. They're fantastic for the community. I believe it was raining. Somebody told me it was raining.
We got a bit of rain.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a shame. But look, basically, I think these expo events that bring people to our region are just absolutely wonderful.
They are. Look, because you missed out, I can tell you that the smiles on the faces was the payback.
Yeah.
Being out there, it's the smiles on the faces.
Yeah.
Every second person, because they had a bag in their hand with half a dozen vanilla slices, a smile on the face.
The food for the week, yeah.
Yes, I go out and have a look at what's on my desk. Thank you for catching up, Anne. It's good to catch up with you.
Absolute pleasure, always.
And we'll talk again in a fortnight.
Great. Sounds
Thank
good.
you. That's Anne Webster MP, federal member for Melbourne.